chosen as an artist. I was selected by Laurence Paris. She invited me around, and I thought it was a good opportunity to show my pictures in a place like Cannes, where photography then would be seen by actors and by producers, film producers, because one of my goals was that I always wanted to apply the same technique I use in photography with film. I'm a sculptor, and I've started photography as a sculptor, with a sculptor concept. So to work now within the setting of media, within the setting of photography as a discipline, means that I'm going to introduce very new things. And people, first of all, need to get used to those new things. And my gallery is a very special gallery because, first of all, it's very personal. I'm very strong in this gallery, and the point is that I have chosen to do it as much as possible in an intimate and private way, because what I'm producing is completely new. And I think that at the beginning I want to control as much as possible the process, so that I make sure that people get the right message. My creative process is, in fact, it is about trying to go back to the origin of art, which means that the soul comes back into the picture. Whenever a good sculptor does a good sculpture, this good sculpture always gives you the feeling that there is more to it than just the piece of steel, the piece of wood, or the piece of stone that you are looking at. And good art, which endures through times, is that art which has a depth which reaches into the soul, which reaches into the intimacy of the process of creation. And Titian, the Italian painter, made a long painting like this, more or less this format, and on this painting you had a well, and in front of the well there is a woman sitting, and this woman is dressed, and then on the well there is the same woman naked, and she's looking on the dressed. And that painting is called Divine Love and Profane Love. Titian made very clear which was the strongest and who has priority, because to the viewer the relation is with the profane, but the soul, which stands above, higher than the profane, what is relevant is that she watches her and the process. So it's very clear that the soul is always above the physical appearance of any person. So I decided that I was going to, as much as possible, give to the viewer and to the public the perspective of a sculptor, so that the public understands what a sculptor sees and what a sculptor feels, what a sculptor lives, and what he wants, what he wants to communicate, in fact. You first go from the sculpture into the photography, you create something new, then you go back into the sculpture, and out of the photography itself and out of the photography process comes a new design for a new sculpture. Being a scientist as an artist is something that makes the thing round. First, before I even started to do the first shot with my camera, I knew exactly what I was going to do. Why? Because as a scientist, I had worked on the concept. It was clear to me that I wanted to revitalize the art. This is pretty normal. It looks like a Mayol. Mayol is a well-known French sculptor, and Mayol would do a torso, and then he would cut the head off, cut the arms off. The difference between Mayol and me is that while I'm sculpting, I can already not just, I cut the head off and then I think this flat surface is disturbing. There is something that is not quite right, because I want to revitalize the art. So what do? I work on these shapes and just with a finger make this form. But then I work again on these surfaces here, and I go forth and back until this line turns up and I see a petal, the petal of a flower. Why don't we just think further and apply a concept to it and say, okay, let's make it so that whenever a body ends, another form of life starts. And this time as I have my concept, I change every surface that is being cut off and replace the cutting off by another form of life. The spiral, a shell, a nautilus. Yeah? So 3 forms of life which emerge out of one body. So being a scientist definitely brings you to study what you're doing and to replace what you've been doing for maybe 5 or 10 years by new ideas, because you have another kind of approach. What you do is that you really try to renovate, to make something new, something that is different from what has been done before. And this is what gives you then also a much bigger depth, let's say a much deeper depth into any matter that you study. And this very big project that I call Body and Soul is made out of 7 main parts. And these 7 main parts all follow a scientific concept, which is the system theory analysis of how culture gets created. That culture is a process, and the 7 main ingredients for this process to work, and they all have to be done. It doesn't matter whether the artist makes all 7. He doesn't need to. In fact, the public, the viewer, could do 4 or 5 or 6 parts. The artist will maybe need to do just the first one. That would be maybe enough. But the 7 parts have to be done by those who are working with that piece of culture that is being produced. Those 7 parts are innocence and purity as the first, because for any new creation to be, you need a white sheet. You need something that, however dirty, however colored it is, in your mind is blank. The second will be the inspiration. I call it calling the light. I have photographies that are in black and white. Why? Because I say those are process. They are work and they are not the final idea. So when the final idea comes, the middle part of the photography is colored. And that part that is full of light is then the real work. Third, you have to produce the piece of culture, be it words, be it smells, be it sense, be it whatever, be it material that gets transformed. There is something that needs to happen which is called the work, and this work means that you transform material mainly. Fourth is what we call maturation. This maturity is what is relevant, because this is what then makes the message or the piece of art or, I don't know, even an industrial product that you're presenting so mature that the people around you get involved and get interested in using it. The fifth part is the communication. So once a process has started and a product is finished, this product needs to be communicated to the people so that it becomes a place for interaction. So communication means thinking. Thinking about what you've done, putting it into words, and making those words available to as many people as possible. Sixth, there is something that everybody that gets in touch with that piece should be happy about. Because unless it makes people happy, and unless it makes the creator happy, what the hell are you doing? Unless we have a happy world, and unless we are happy while we're doing things, we have little reason to act. Seventh, we finally let go. We have to let the piece, whatever we do, we have to let it go, so that it becomes a new item in a new place and causes again new discussions, new communication, and again new evolution. And the next process could start again with innocence and so on. So it's like a wheel. And this is a scientific way to go about it. It's not really an artistic way to go about things.